No problem, man.
Hola. Pañal. De nada, de nada.
Una no van a alcanzar.
¿Esto no?
No, es con usted,
Los dos son
Usted ya lleva
champús,
uno
uno y uno.
y ya lleva uno. Puede agarrar uno de estos. No más.
¿Esta? Sí, y una, una.
Verde.
¿El verde? Ok.
Gracias.
Y de
Este azul.
azul,
Ajá. Gracias.
de nada.
Oh, 5.
Y un jabón.
I'm sure you're okay if it's recorded.
Yes, people always record me.
Okay. So we're going to start off with questions about the background of the center. Then we're going to go on to COVID and education. We're going to go on to policies and then activism. That's okay.
That sounds, and some of them blend together, just so you know. Okay.
So the first question I'd like to ask is, tell us a little bit about the CFF, the Center for Farmworker Families, and their work.
Do you want to know something about the history or the work now or both?
Yeah, if you could mix history with present day, please.
Yeah, okay. Well, I taught many years at San Jose City College, biology and environmental science. And I got offered an opportunity to do a PhD at UC Santa Cruz in a new environmental studies program. And I told the person, Steve Gleason, that wanted to take me on as a grad student, I would be happy to do it if I could do something for farm workers. He said, fine, no problem. So I started the work and I studied the impact of the North American Free Trade Agreement on the farms in west central Mexico. And I interviewed, I think, 22 families there and about 35 families in Watsonville and Salinas. And I was horrified by what I found. To me, it's one of the greatest environmental disasters and humanitarian disasters imaginable. What happened is Mexico used to protect the farmers in Mexico by having tariffs at the border on any imported corn, and Clinton signed the North American Free Trade Agreement. It got rid of the tariffs, the U.S. GMO corn, hybrid corn, flowed into Mexico by the ton load and undercut the price that this pristine, sustainable farming community had produced for, we think, 7,000 to 9,000 years. So suddenly all this corn is flowing in. It's much cheaper than what the farmers are selling the corn for. So it undercut their price, and basically they had no funds. No way to buy a doctor visit, a quinceañera, a wedding, nothing. And so they had three choices. They could stay on their farm and starve, and many of them decided to do that. I interviewed two families, and they said, we've been on this farm for generations, and we're not leaving. So that was one option. Another option was to go to Mexico City or another large city and look for work and send money home to the farm. And if you look at Mexico City today from the air, it's ringed with shanty towns of these displaced farmers. And then the last option is an undocumented border crossing to the U.S. And Salinas de Gortari, who was the president at the time, estimated that 1 million farmers would leave their land every year for the first 15 years of NAFTA. Where did they expect them to go? And so today we have 11 million undocumented people. Most of these people you're seeing here are what I call economic refugees of NAFTA. And they had no choice. They're not here to, quote, create a better life or any of that. They're here out of survival to support their families in Mexico. So now what we have is this once sustainable farming culture in Mexico that produced some of the best corn in the world, based on the corn, bean, and squash intercrop, has been basically decimated. And it wasn't until 2013 that a federal judge voted to stop the importation of genetically modified corn to Mexico as an imminent environmental threat, quote unquote. So now, today, basically that whole way of life has been destroyed in one way or another. We have these immigrants here, many of them who are hungry, they can't pay rent, the work is unstable, and whereas once they came from a community where they could always count on food and some amount of money, they have basically nothing here. And it's ironic if you look around, because these are the people that feed you and me, and yet we have to take donations to feed them. And there is not the recognition that these are real live human beings with hopes, dreams, etc. Now, my experience with working with them, that there's three things that would transform their lives. One is comprehensive immigration reform. No one who has worked weeks, months, and years bent over in the field picking food for us should be worried about deportation. I mean, they're doing us a favor to do this. They die at an average life expectancy of only 49 years. So it's really a population of use and discard. So that's one. Then number two is they need a living wage. They live in grinding poverty. Some of them live 16 people in 1,000 square feet with one bathroom. They tell me they have to line up in the morning to go to the bathroom. I mean, this is disgraceful, really. And this is with children. And then the last thing is a contract with the grower. They have no contracts with the people they work for. So the grower can steal all the money from their labor. And there's no recourse. If they go to an attorney, the attorney will ask for the contract, and they don't have one. So the whole system is set up to be stacked against them. I look at this, I studied slavery in the South, and I just see this as a reworked system of slavery. and you keep people impoverished so they can't move on. And there's been many ways that this has been done. It makes me very angry, and I apologize for getting emotional about it. But we have had, one of the things we do, number one, is we educate the public. There was almost no press about NAFTA and the humanitarian disaster that it caused, forcing people out of their country to come here. All we heard was they're breaking our immigration laws. Well, we fomented that whole exodus from Mexico. It's cruel, very cruel. So we educate the public, we support farm workers in any way we can to make their life more tenable. And what you're seeing here is one example. We, on Sunday, will be passing out rental assistance checks so they don't get thrown out of their apartment. We'll write $1,000 checks for 60 farm worker families on Sunday, and we'll do it again about 2 weeks later. And the funding for that comes from the Community Foundation of Santa Cruz County. And then lastly, the other thing that we do as an organization is we examine these laws and regulations that keep these people oppressed and from which escape is nearly impossible. And we've had quite a bit of success. We got rid of the 50-mile regulation in all of the state's migrant camps, 24 migrant camps. It took us 8 years to do it, but we got it done. And are you familiar with the 50-mile regulation? You know that one, okay. So we got rid of that. They can now, their children can go to the same school all year long, and hopefully we're gonna start seeing some high school graduates, which we never got to see. We're now declaring war on pesticides. 1 million pounds of pesticides were used in this county in 2017, and that's the last year for which there's data, and 400,000 of those pounds cause cancer. Now, as an example of a story that is much too common and I'm sick and tired of hearing about, a woman came to house, you met her,
Yes.
to get a rental assistance check, and she said she was really stressed. She wasn't going to be able to be with her husband and daughter for Christmas. And so I wrote her the check and I asked her, why can't you be with your daughter or your husband and daughter? And she said, well, we moved closer to a field. My daughter now has blood cancer, so my husband and my daughter are spending Christmas at Stanford. That's the kind of stories I hear. Who you met has 2 young boys with ADHD. And I mean, they can't control themselves. You know, they're on medications, they go to counseling. But her 2 oldest children, she didn't work in the fields, they're fine. The 2 youngest, she did, and they both have ADHD. There would be definitely legislation or something taken to stop this for rich white people, but campesinos, these people here, they're brown and they're expendable. And I just think that's disgraceful. What kind of system do we have? We need to remedy that. In the local migrant camp, the Buena Vista migrant camp, this whole past season, there was no internet.
Wow.
And I've been raising hell about that.
Yeah.
And so we have a rich donor, entrepreneur person that's giving money to the Community Foundation to make sure that internet is put into the migrant camp. But do you see the level of neglect? I mean, this is one example. That's another. The fact that they die so young, they don't have access to health care. Diabetes and high cholesterol are rampant because they can only afford cheap food. They live in crowded conditions. There's no social distancing. So, and there's no plan to inoculate undocumented workers unless they're willing to come to a large central location like a fairground or whatever. Well, none of these people are hiding. They're not going to go someplace where there's masses of people. So we have a doctor, a retired doctor, I believe in Santa Cruz, who has ordered 400 doses of vaccine for us. We have a local person that can administer the vaccines. So when our turn on the queue comes up, the next, hopefully by March, we're going to have a vaccine clinic right here. And people will come and we can inoculate them.
What can everyday people do to support the center's work and be in solidarity with hardworking farm worker families?
Number one, only buy organic. Because at least if the produce is organic, the farm workers haven't been subjected to sprays and fumigants that can destroy their lives. So that would be the number one basic thing. Number two, contact your local representatives and tell them that we need a new agriculture. This one is not working. I mean, if you look at it, it's just tragic. I mean, obviously for the farm workers, it doesn't work. For the environment, it doesn't work. Poisoning the planet is stupid. Number three, for consumers, we unwittingly eat produce containing the residues of these poisons, and people wonder why they get breast cancer, why they get pancreatic cancer, why they get all these cancers. And there's no accountability. The only agrochemical company I've seen held to quite a bit of account is Bayer and Monsanto with glyphosate, Roundup. There have been billion-dollar lawsuits with them. Right. But if you notice, they're still advertising on TV to buy Roundup. You can go to Home Depot today and buy a whole container of Roundup. There is no warning on the label that this causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I mean, consumers obviously lose. The environment loses. Nobody wins except the agrochemicals companies' bottom line profits. And that's not good enough. Surely these scientists in those companies can come up with a better way to spend their times and careers than kill people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And also I'd like to add a caveat. When pesticides are banned here for one reason or another, like paraquat, they're sent to Mexico, and I see them on the shelves of these little stores and pueblos. And then the farmers there go out and use this on backpack applicators, and if they leak, they get into their skin and they die in their fields. So it's whatever the carnage is isn't just restricted here. It crosses the border into those small, isolated pueblos that I visited, and ranchos in Mexico.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's an international crime against humanity, crime against all of us.
Right.
And I am sick and tired of it, frankly.
Yeah.
We all should be. So that's the other thing. Contact your legislators, and then donate to organizations that are actively doing something to improve the lives of farm workers. In our organization, we have no paid staff except for those are our three. They're all farm workers. That's our three staff. The rest of us are all volunteers. So every penny we have goes to farm workers and improving. That's how we can get all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so donate. That's the other thing they can do. And volunteer. Come down here and pass out diapers.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, with that, thank you. Thank you for your time, and I was really happy to have the opportunity to come down here and pass out the donation. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your interest. I appreciate it, and look at how many people are getting benefited from all the work you did. So thank you. Thank you for coming.
Of course, of course.
Great.